Welcome back to Channel 1 Sports News. It's Marvin Hahn. The video you just saw is the topic of discussion on today's broadcast, concussions. Concussions are one of the most common injuries in any sport. But in hockey, it is the most common and dangerous injury. It can end a player's hockey career and even lead them to death. There are many players who died because of concussions. Wade Belak, Steve Montador, many more. What is a concussion? A concussion is a type of traumatic brain injury caused by a bump, blow, or jolt to the head, or by a hit to the body which causes the head and the brain to move rapidly back and forth. This sudden movement can cause the brain to bounce around and twist in the skull, creating some chemical changes to the brain and sometimes stretching and damaging brain cells. Some common symptoms are headaches, vomiting, nausea, sensitive to light, poor concentration, sadness, many more. In order to treat your concussion, your brain needs rest, both physical and cognitive. And you gotta stay in a dark room. In the first article I analyzed, it talked about Gary Bettman. He discussed how hockey concussions have nothing related to do with CTE.
At a news conference prior to Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals, NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman still maintains his view that there is no connection between hits to the head and a degenerative brain disease. Gary Bettman states that there is nothing new on the subject, and to add on to it was Deputy Commissioner Bill Daly. He added that this is not the Commissioner's view, it's a science's view, and that there's not enough information to draw that link. Science hasn't proven that any hockey player or any other person to suffer many blows to the head will eventually be in danger of CTE. Bettman's continued denial may help defend against lawsuits by players who suffered a great amount of head trauma.
In the end, what killed your son?
What brought him down was concussions and the fact that he had too many and he came back and played with and got more. CTE ultimately was his downfall.
But if Paul Montador thinks hockey killed his son, the NHL begs to differ. Right after it came out that Steve had CTE, in a statement the league said they do not agree that there is any link between Steve's death and his NHL career. In fact, Commissioner Gary Bettman insists there's no proof that hockey can lead to CTE at all. As we sit here today, Mr. Bettman and the NHL take the public position that there is no link between hockey and its head hits and CTE. What do you say about that?
The earth is flat.
Steve Montador, son of Paul Montador, died ultimately because of his 19 concussions, which caused him to have major CTE issues. This evidently shows readers that contact sports, especially hits to the head, cause CTE. Paul Montador was asked what he thinks about Gary Bettman's and the NHL's perspective on concussions relating to CTE. His response was, "The earth is flat," meaning that the NHL straight out lied about how concussions don't relate to CTE.
In the second article I analyzed, it talked about how hockey leagues like the GTHL and American leagues are trying to remove contact at a young age to help reduce the chances of concussions. They found that young hockey players who suffer concussions can still experience after effects, even if they feel fine and have been cleared to go back on the ice. Menon and his team chose to look at players currently participating at the bantam level, 15 years old, which is the first year Hockey Canada allows body checking. Using detailed MRI scans, he and his team were able to take detailed brain snapshots of players who had suffered a concussion. They found brain damage in the brain's so-called white matter, which links different parts of the brain together. Scans were done 3 months after the concussion. The scans still show brain damage even though the player had no concussion-like symptoms.
The physicality of ice hockey is extremely intense, and recently that has led to rule changes and increased awareness in youth hockey leagues.
It's a real hot topic nowadays.
It's nerve-wracking at times.
Concussions in ice hockey are nearly as common as high school football, and just as dangerous.
You're always exposed. You could be falling down and a guy comes to hit you in the shoulder and he hits you in the head instead.
A recent study published in the Journal of Pediatrics showed that younger adolescents who play ice hockey suffer from concussion symptoms for a much longer period than more physically mature players.
Their brains are developing, their bodies are developing.
This concern has led to USA Hockey changing rules in recent years, specifically raising the body checking age from 11 to 13.
Leagues across North America want to reduce the percentage of concussions in the younger hockey divisions. Younger hockey players suffer from concussion symptoms for a longer period of time than more physically matured hockey players. This shows parents and kids that leagues care about reducing concussions at a young age, which tells parents that they can let their kids play knowing that it's safer.
The last article is about the National Hockey League and the National Hockey League Players Association. They both agreed to have additional support to help identify players who require evaluation under the concussion protocol. It still remains the club's responsibility to know if a player has a concussion and must be removed from play. There will be new staff of Central League spotters which are retained by the league and are certified trainers who have clinical experience working in elite level hockey and have experience training on the visible signs of concussions in the protocol. They will watch all the games through a TV broadcast and will be authorized to remove a player from play to evaluate for a possible concussion.
Canada's favorite game show, let's get right to it. The NHL tells us its concussion protocol was followed to a T when Sidney Crosby crashed headfirst into the boards. He was cleared to play and is back on the ice today. Are you guys satisfied that the NHL's concussion protocol is working, or do you think it needs improving? Oh,
I think the system is working. Back when we played, I don't think we knew really what concussions were, what the symptoms were. I think the players now, like a guy like Sidney Crosby, he got up, he seemed fine, he played the rest of the game. They have the information and knowledge right now that the players should know that the dangers if they stay in the hockey game, and if they're not well, take themselves out.
System needs improving. I believe that if this was in the regular season and it wasn't a 1-0 game in the first period of a big playoff game, that he would have been taken out. And now you're in the playoff. It's just like officiating in the playoffs. It becomes a little loose. We're not really sure what's a penalty or not. We're not really sure what the concussion protocol is, or if the spotters are watching. So I think the timing really affected the whole process.
The system's
Hockey analysts and former NHL players discussed their opinions on if the new NHL concussion protocol has been effective in the first year of implementation. They give their reasons on why the system is working or not, and how it affects the player and the team. Once a spotter takes a player out of the game, it can ruin the team's flow and ultimately decide the outcome of the game. These opinions can help the NHL make their system better and more effective. In my opinion, I say that concussions are hurting the youth and hitting in hockey should be removed at the younger ages. The NHL should also have a stricter system about the concussion protocol. Additionally, the NHL should admit that multiple counts of head trauma will lead to CTE as discovered by doctors reviewing multiple MRI scans of former NHL hockey players. To conclude this segment, would removing hitting at a younger age reduce chances of concussions? Do you think CTE has anything to do with concussions? We would like to hear your responses on our website, www.channel1sports.ca, and on our Twitter, @Channel1Sports. We will see you tomorrow, and have a great rest of your day.